Hello knitters, Barbara Benson here. I am an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. Make sure to check in the description notes below the video where you will always find links on anything I talk about in any of my videos, including how to get my patterns for yourself, how to join the Watch Barbara Knit Facebook group, how to support me on Patreon, and where to get my merchandise. Today I have for you a pattern tour. I have a brand new pattern that you can knit up for yourself. You can see it right back here. It is a cowlet. What a cowlet is it's like a cowl. A cowl is just a tube, and a cowlet is sort of a hybrid between a cowl and what is called a shawlette. So it has that more flair to it, and I'm very excited about it. I do want to talk about, if you watched last week's video on the CC's Wool American U tweed, this is the pattern I developed in conjunction with CC's Wool, only this is in a new addition to their American U lineup. This is the American U Bulky. It is the same wool blend, except for it doesn't have the tweedy bits. It is just as soft, it is bulky, and it comes in all of the same colors that the tweed one does. So if you're interested in this yarn, I would really encourage you to go back and watch the previous video. I will definitely link to it, and you can see all of the colors that this comes in. It just doesn't, it's not going to have the speckles in it, is really the only difference. And what this is it's a merino rambouillet, I'm checking to make sure, blend, and it is super soft. It has a micron count of 21, which it means it's soft. And that is the reason why we decided to do a really close to the neck cowlet for it, because this has next to skin softness on the wool. It is not superwash, so it is super insulative and squishy and amazing, and it comes in a bunch of great colors. Now, the name of the pattern is Next Best Thing to Coffee, and actually CC herself actually suggested that name because I didn't really have a name yet, and she said that Northerners will understand that apparently the best thing to warm yourself up is holding a cup of coffee between your hands, and this is going to be the next best thing to coffee to warm you up. I'm really excited about it, and I want to show it to you, but as I wanted it on my mannequin so you could see how it sits close to the neck and how the cowlet shape makes it flare out. One thing that this flare is really great for is for this to be worn actually under a jacket. So you have that coverage around your neck, but since it flares out, you can put a jacket over it, and the jacket can have a decent size like V, or you don't have to button it up all the way, but you have that flare so it insulates better. Now, it is obviously lace. You can see the holes in it, and that's just because, you know, I have a thing for lace knit in bulky yarn. I wrote up here, I wrote a whole book about it. And I think that is one of the reasons why CC reached out to me about this collaboration. If you've wondered about how these collaborations work, essentially she reached out to me and said, hey, we have this new yarn that we need patterns for, and I saw these things that you did. We'd love to have you design something in our yarn. And I said, sounds like fun. They send me the yarn, and that's all that they're sending me. They don't pay me to design anything, because what will happen is I will publish it as an independent pattern, as a PDF that is available through both Ravelry and my website. So y'all can go buy the PDF, and you will be buying that directly from me. And if they are going to sell the pattern like in their store, they will buy it from me. So it's one of those mutually beneficial kind of arrangement, and it's a way for us independent designers to have a lot more control over what we're designing. So essentially she was just like, I want a close to the neck cowly kind of thing. And I'm like, I got you. And this is it. So the way this works is you cast on in the round, and then you are going to place some stitch markers, and the increases are down like this center part. You see this center panel? And it increases 2 stitches every right side row. And that's what causes it to stack out. And you can see this motif. I'm so excited about this. I want to show you some of the details. So you've got this motif, and you can see that the cables go one direction, and they're actually, how to let me show it right. They're mirrored. So you've got the center. You can really see it, how they're centering. I need centering. There we go. You can see how they're mirrored. They go the opposite direction, flaring away from the center. And then in the back, there is another motif that these are framing. And I think it looks really cool. It's really fun. You have this motif that you repeat, and then this is like the same repeat, the same kind of motif, but it's worked as true lace. So you're actually working lace on every round. So that's what gives it a steeper angle. So it's actually a really fast knit. It is on size 11 needles. Let me double check that. Yes, it's on size 11 needles. You knit it in the round. It's going to knit up very quickly. It took me a few days to knit it, but that's because when you're designing, there's some 2-step forward and 1-step back kind of situation when you're designing, and I have to make changes on the fly. But you will just be able to knit it straight off the bat because it's all done. So let's see what other details I can give you. So you need 1 skein. You need the size 11 US, and that's 8 millimeters. In metric is the size needle you need. And you can get away with a 24-inch in circumference needle because that's this dimension. You could probably do it on something smaller if you wanted. You're not going to be able to do it on anything bigger than 24 inches. The finished size, you get 22.5-inch circumference at the neck. But that's because it the way it measures, it kind of sits down like this. If you pulled it up like that is when you get your 24-inch dimension. The front point, from the top to the bottom of the front point, is 10 inches. And then the height of it at the back is 8 inches. That's 25.5 centimeters in the front and 20.5 centimeters in the back. Math, you know. Now, what other things can I tell you about the pattern? The pattern is provided both as fully written out instructions, but also with charts. So you can choose to work it completely from written instructions, or there's a couple of written rows that you're set up, and then you can jump over and work entirely from charts, or you can use a combination of the two. It just depends on what you like. I had to hit pause because somebody started weed whacking just outside my window. I took that opportunity to put the cowlet back on the mannequin so I would quit fussing with it. I wanted to show you this. This is how much yarn I had left over. I try very hard to not ever use up all the yarn because I know that people's gauge vary slightly. But because it's bulky yarn, and because, you know, you really have less yardage, and actually, so 1 skein has 116 yards. That is 106 meters. So it's harder to leave a lot of it on the table. But I try my best to leave around 10% unused. So this is how much I had left of a skein this size, which is the 4-ounce skein. The yarn also comes in, let me double check, an 8-ounce skein, a much larger skein. And actually, if you wanted, and I put suggestions, I'm just going to read it to you actually. This pattern was specifically designed to work with one skein of bulky yarn, but if you would like to make it longer, you can simply add in more repeats of the body of the cowl, which is this here. But make sure to note that you'll still need to start the edging after a specific round, because what you have is you have the body, and you can just repeat that as much as you want. And then there's just this small edging part that's a little bit lacier, just to finish it off neatly. And I also said if you would like to increase the circumference, if you want it a little bit bigger around, you can totally do that. Or if you wanted to modify it to use a thinner yarn, and of course you're going to have to figure that out yourself. But if you want to add repeats, you have to add the repeats in increments of 16, which will be 1 8-stitch repeat on one side of the center and 1 8-stitch repeat on the other side of the center, if that makes sense. I can always try to explain it to you in different ways if that is something you're interested in doing with this pattern once you've acquired it and decide you want to knit it, because I can totally see it being knit in the tweed that I showed you. It's just you're going to have to put more stitches on the needle right off the bat, because it'll be like, you don't want it that tight. We're not looking for cervical collar action here. It's not a turtleneck, it's a cowlette. So I think that is, so the skills you need to knit this. So it uses knit 2 together, make 1 right, make 1 left, purl, SKP, which is slip knit pass. It's a variant on slip knit that I find looks better than slip knit does in a bulky yarn. But if you want to substitute slip knit, if you're happy with the way it looks, you can. But SKP is essentially you slip the next stitch knitwise, knit the next stitch, and then pass that slip stitch over. It's really an incredibly simple stitch. And then a yarn over. That's it. So we have make 1 right, make 1 left, yarn over for our increases, knit 2 together, SKP for our decreases, and otherwise it's just knit and purl. So it is quite a straightforward pattern. You're going to need 3 stitch markers, 1 to mark the beginning of round, and then a lot of the instructions are knit into repeat to stitch marker, slip stitch marker, do something, repeat to stitch marker kind of setup. It makes it easy to get the repeats and the instructions a little bit more streamlined. So that is next best thing to coffee in the CC's Wool American U bulky. I'm super excited to have gotten to play with this, and honestly I still have this skein, so I may be cooking up something else. Who knows what I might do. Oh, and look, I also had this is what it looks like just in its natural color. This is the swatch. If you're ever wondering how much swatching and how big of a swatch I do when I'm designing like this, this is my swatch. This is just the swatch for me to do the math on and figure out how many stitches I needed to cast on. And actually, wouldn't it kind of make a really cool sleeve on a sweater? I think it'd be neat. That weed whacker is coming back. I wonder if you can hear it in the background. I think that means it's time to wrap this up. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Click that like button. I would love to have you come over to the Watch Barbara Knit Facebook group if you're planning on knitting this. I can't wait to see it. And don't forget to click the subscribe button if you want to get notifications whenever I upload a new video. Thank you so much.